It is Monday, March 29th, 2021. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual Get Your Ass Kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. And I did actually go into class today and do my session. I will say that I'm probably just as confused now as I was when I went in, and it's not usually a good place to be at the end of class. But honestly, I had a lot of trouble with today's curriculum, and I wasn't even studying. It wasn't something where I was so lit that I couldn't understand what was going on. It's just a really confusing technique, and the intent on a couple angles, I was having a lot of trouble. Like, it starts with your opponent. You've got your opponent on top of you and in half guard, and the first movement is to try and get from half guard to up and having your opponent in butterfly guard and looking to sweep them. Now, the trouble that I was having on that is you're supposed to get your arm under you, like up on your elbow, like up on your right elbow, and having an overhook on the left side. But there was a swap in there where you move your head from one side to the other in the effort to try and sweep your opponent. I was having so much trouble with that. And there were a couple parts of it where I was like, this doesn't seem to be working for me. And like the one of the ending points on it before we get to the final part of it was a heel hook, but it was a special kind of grip where you get their ankle like right above your hand. And then you do a butterfly grip, to where you're grabbing your arm while having it hooked under the having your right. I'm having trouble explaining it. Have your right hand arm under their heel to where it's just on your wrist, and then reaching up over the leg with your left arm and cupping down on it that way, and then twisting to your right. And I had so much trouble with that one today. I mean, I would need at least 15-20 minutes of doing that technique again and again and again and again and again before I really felt like it would be sinking in, And I don't know what it is. I always have this trouble, and it comes up a lot in jiu-jitsu where I'll just draw a blank. It's like I'm supposed to do something and I'm trying to do it, and I'm drawing a blank on how to do it. Like what the next part of the movement would be for me to do in order to complete it. And it's weird. It's like I'll try and do a sweep or something like that. And there's something major that I'm forgetting to do, and I don't know if it's because I haven't done it in a while, or what the deal is, but for whatever reason I had so much trouble with the sweep on this particular technique. And I like to sweep people. I usually don't have too much trouble doing it either, so I don't know what the deal is there. I'm gonna have to work on it. But yeah, so overall, it was confusing. And what was most confusing about it is I was familiar with every one of the techniques that we did today, but for whatever reason, just the setup for them or the alignment for them, I don't know. I think at least part of my brain felt like there was more efficient movements to do it in that particular position, or more efficient ways to get to a particular goal, or I don't know. I really don't. Just like the back step part of it was kind of natural to me, but there are like several steps between where I stopped explaining it and getting to that part, because I mean it's like there's a whole series of movements, and it's a neat flow, you know. But the thing is, like I said, there's certain things in it that, you know, maybe I wouldn't necessarily go for, or that I would try other techniques first, you know. I mean, because there's like one point in there where I think if I really wanted to, I put my foot up on their hip and push it down a little bit to get my leg up on their back, and there's a triangle set up in there, you know. So there's you know, again, there's all kinds of stuff in there that I probably wouldn't have utilized, but I don't know, you know. I mean, I'm absolutely certain it would be perfect to have those the little bits of it in my repertoire, but you know, for that particular flow, I'm not sure. But you know, hey, who am I to judge? I'm not the instructor, right? So I'm trying to get it, but yeah, I had a lot of difficulty in class today. But I felt good about getting in today, though, and I felt pretty good on the mat. And I think that's as, if not more important. Like the other problem was that my partner hadn't been on the mat for a while, so it was him coming back after a couple of months. And you know, I did last week, but before that I had been off for like 3 weeks. So you know, that kind of has a little bit of an impact on what you can remember immediately, right? And I guess that could be a usable or viable excuse. I'm not really into excuses, because I'm getting into a habit of giving yourself an excuse to do things. But yeah, I could see that as a possible explanation of why I wasn't really getting as much done and as well as I would have liked. You know, like if I had a partner who got it a little more, I would have been able to get more reps in, and that's fine that I didn't. And I don't know. Like I said, I think that I could do better. I will do better. But I'm gonna have to put up with a few sessions like today's before I'm there 100%. And like I've been feeling a little bit of pressure to compete, and I would like that, I think, at one point or another. And I wouldn't mind representing the people that I work out with. But I'm not 100% confident yet, you know. I don't think you ever get 100%, but I'd like to be a lot more confident than I am. You know, I'd like to be better practiced at least, before I endeavored to do that. And the other thing is, it's up in Portland, and I fucking hate Portland. Don't get me wrong, love the people. You know, they're really cool and whatever, but for some stupid reason they keep electing these people that suck. And from what I understand, there's all kinds of trash all over the streets now up there. And I haven't been up there in a long time. Or, I don't know, since at least maybe last year or the year before was the last time I was up there. And like I said, I don't like the town. You know, it's like the people that did the layout of the street, they hate cars. And they want to get you out of your fucking car. And so providing you with adequate parking, that's not really a high priority, you know. And you're having to walk like 5 blocks between where you park and the venue that you're going. That's no fun for anybody, you know. And especially when it's not in a great part of town either. You know, nobody wants to go to a concert so they can get harassed for 4 blocks between where they park and the venue. You know, and I think that's something that Portland is going to find out the hard way. And I don't like it because it's in my state, so, it's something that we're unwillingly funding, And I think that's an interesting part of crypto that, after a while, I believe that enough of the monetary and commercial activity that's going on out there is going to transition away from fiat and away from government and banker-run systems, that they will have absolutely no choice but to treat people as though they have a voice, and that what they think and what they believe matters. It's like we don't get treated that way now because the bankers are the ones that create the money, and so they get to create the agenda that our government follows. And if that includes sending us to war with fucking Syria and Iraq and Iran and every other fucking oil producing country on the planet, then that's what it means. Well, the people that are behind Bitcoin, or that like Bitcoin, or that support Bitcoin or use Bitcoin, a lot of them are very ecologically minded people. Enough that there have been multiple narratives speaking out against proof of work mining, which to me is completely fucking ludicrous, because the fact of the matter is that I sit and watch my Twitter feed all day long, and I see these tweets by Whale Alert, and I can see them every day, millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin transactions, worth of USDT transactions, worth of USDC transactions, all kinds of fucking transactions going on out there that, if they were to have been done via legacy commerce, would have cost millions in fees, or at least thousands. Would have involved all kinds of people that do not need to be involved in your commerce. Would have involved taxes that do not belong in your commerce. And so when I hear people talking shit about proof of work currency, I just want to slap them. They have no idea what they're talking about. We've talked about that on the show multiple times, how they leave the conversation really open-ended, in that they don't include anything to contrast the energy expenditure of Bitcoin. I mean, one guy on Twitter contrasted the amount of energy that's dedicated to running dryers. Not washing machines, but just the dryers. And when you contrast how much electricity is dedicated to mining versus how much electricity is dedicating to drying clothes, I mean, sure, one is at least as important as the other, right? Depending on who you are, I guess. But the fact of the matter is that it's 25% of the same of the amount of energy that's dedicated to drying clothing is dedicated to mining, and that's globally. That's not just in the United States. That's not just in China. That's globally. So again, I think it's a tiny investment of energy for extraordinary wealth being returned to the individual. I checked out the other day, fucking Jim Blasco just bought him a new house. And those of you who have been following the show for a while know who Jim Blasco is. He's an old school dev. He's currently backing a project called Aspire. And you might want to check that out. But yeah, anyway, he got him a new house. And I don't think before crypto came along that he was doing much more than getting by on gambling proceeds. And now look at him. He's got a really nice house. He's got all kinds of goodies. Got himself an arcade that he runs. So, this was all wealth that was created by crypto. It was created by all of that energy being expended. And that's the other thing. Those same people that say that Bitcoin is such a waste of electricity and proof of work currencies are such a waste of electricity and whatnot, they'll say stupid shit like it's not backed by anything. It literally cannot be that. It can't be both. It's one or the other, man. Either it uses the same amount of electricity as a small country every year, or it's not backed by anything. Make up your fucking mind. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw in with some music, because we haven't played anything yet. And, yeah, I'm wanting to go with some body count. I'm feeling it. And so here it is. The Ski Mask Way. First Dance. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Rammstein. And again, that's one of those albums that for whatever reason, Winamp simply just doesn't have the fucking metadata for. Anywho, I gotta find out if there's like an audio program out there that does have the metadata for that stuff, and see if I can like make a plugin or something for Winamp. Not that I'm a coder or anything like that, but it doesn't seem like there's anything out there that you would ever want to program for that there isn't some sort of tutorial out there telling you exactly how to do it. Let's see here. I want to check something here really quick. Blah, blah, blah. No. Oh, man. Some people just do not seem to understand. You know, the one thing about Bitcoin is that it's one of those things that you don't know what you need for it until you need it. And then it's like a race to achieve it. And the first person to achieve it is the person that gets the most reward. And so it's one of those things where, like, you know, if you look back in Bitcoin's history, one of the things that spurred the most interest in mining was the fact that pretty much anybody could get into it and make a profit. And what this caused is really interesting things. Like if you look at China and the fact that they do have so much of the mining concentrated there at the moment, I don't expect that to last forever. But because there was a necessity and because there was a possibility of profit, there was an incentive to do things like go out to the middle of the fucking nowhere China, itty bitty teeny tiny villages that are burning coal just to burn coal because they're not actually using all the electricity it's actually providing to their grid. And so, you know, you got all this energy that's just going to get burnt anyway because it costs more to shut down the coal plant temporarily than just to leave it running. And, you know, they established they had this problem where they would establish a coal-fired plant, and I don't know that it's an actual problem per se, but they would establish a coal-fired plant way out in the middle of fucking nowhere, itty-bitty teeny tiny village, still has dial-up phones. They would set up these coal-fired plants to try and boost the economy and stuff, right? But they out in the middle of fucking nowhere, you know, and so they're not really using all the electricity that this coal-fired plant is producing. You know, so it's kind of getting wasted. But the fact of the matter is that in order to make sure that the coal plant works, you have to start it up. Well, that has a cost, and so does shutting it down. And so, like I was saying, they would just assume the cost of the startup for the benefit and the increased economic activity it would produce, and it always did. But in the meantime, they had all this electricity that they're not using. It's just fucking going up into the atmosphere as coal ash. And so, you know, along comes mining as something that can be, you could turn that fucking electricity into money. And so all of a sudden a bunch of miners move out to these itty bitty teeny tiny villages, don't even have fucking high speed internet access, but there's suddenly a need for high speed internet access to extend all the way out to this itty bitty teeny tiny fucking village. It's all it's got going on is this big ass fucking hash farm and this coal fire plant, this itty bitty village. But there's an economic incentive to do it now. It makes sense on somebody's balance sheet to do that because it's profitable. See, I expect that to kind of return to crypto, or with Bitcoin in particular. You know, a couple implementations have been added to Bitcoin to make it operate a certain way. And those implementations, while they would have been really, really great for a teeny tiny oligarchy of developers and other such, it would have been really great for them. It would have sucked for everybody else. And we've seen some sort of traction with regard to Lightning Network, but it's only because it hasn't really been used. I mean, well, shit, it actually kind of has. If you do any kind of coin joins and shit like that, and it's a hosted service, a lot of times they'll reject your coins, and there goes your non-fungibility or your fungibility issue. You know, where one Bitcoin used to be one Bitcoin. No, not anymore. It came from fucking Tumblr, so now it's not a Bitcoin anymore, at least not according to the terms of service of a particular custodial wallet service. You know, and so it makes it useless for that particular service. You can't use it within there, and so it might as well just be some fucking butt token that you can only use in a couple other places. See, I think enough of the monetary value that's stored up in Bitcoin will be in such stained coins that the economic incentive to maintain this compliance policy will go away. It's going to be costing these fucking custodial people too much money, too much potential business for them to continue doing it. You're going to say, well, fuck, I could have taken a transaction here for 10 Bitcoin, establishing a payment channel for these people, but no, those are stained coins. So that's, you know, several $1 million worth of business that wasn't hosted in my payment channel that I couldn't do loans against, and so on and so forth. You know, again, the economic incentive to do certain things, sometimes you gotta tell people about it. You know, it's like I posted this idea of taking the block size off of Bitcoin. And see, some people have trouble understanding what that would do. They bring up things like Moore's Law and the limitations of that. Fuck you. That whole mindset is so below our current computing and network capabilities that for the most part we're still using 4th generation miners out there because there's not enough demand to bump up to the latest iteration of miners. 4 generations back, fucking miners, they're still recirculating them, mining fucking altcoins with them, transitioning back to mining Bitcoin with them, and that's happening based on incentive. You know, and so if there is increased activity on the Bitcoin network, if all of a sudden instead of being 1 megabyte blocks, they're cheaper transactions, but they're like 40 megabyte blocks or some shit like that. I mean, still, we're only talking about megabytes. And again, that was an issue back in like 2010 for maybe like 40% of the planet. Well, it's not 2010 anymore. We've come a decade from there. The places that you're so concerned aren't going to be able to participate are more than capable of doing so now, probably more so than your little municipality that you're in. But talking like it's going to be, it's going to cut off some significant portion of the planet. No, it's going to incentivize the improvement of the internet infrastructure and the electrical infrastructure for that particular area. For pretty much everywhere, though, because this is a global thing. It is not just limited to one little jurisdiction here or there. If there's a possibility to increase the electrical output of the facilities in your area, there will suddenly be an incentive to do it. And this is the point. I think all of these people that fall back to Moore's law and all that, none of them are really taking that into consideration. That Bitcoin, rather than being something where you establish the capability first, and then you work within the limitations of that capability. No. That's not the market driver in Bitcoin. The market driver is it profitable to do? If it's not, what would I need to do in order to make it profitable? That's the long and short of it right there. You know, and like you start off and you're like, okay, well, I got this GPU. I could do some mining with it, but if I were mining Bitcoin, I'd pretty much just be burning hashes because I'm only going to make like a Satoshi a day doing that shit with it. But if I were mining an altcoin with it, well, let's go to Coin Wars and let's evaluate which one would be the best one to dedicate it to and for approximately how long. Then I'm going to go to Bittrex and I'm going to look at the price of the coin and I'm going to say to myself, well, is it going up or is it going down? And if it's going down, how much farther is it going to go down before it hits a bottom, before it starts going back up again? Because that could dictate to me which one would be worthy of my investment. And you could actually plot it out. I mean, if you know how to do TA for trading, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't use TA as a means of plotting where you would potentially be putting some hash power with your miner, where it would be most profitable for you. And of course, you could be trying to be a market maker at one point or another, where maybe a few years down the line, when you're not working with just one GPU anymore because you've been rolling over at least 50% of your profits back into hardware purchases, back into improving your internet, back into improving your electrical setup, maybe contributing, adding a fucking solar panel or two, maybe a little windmill on your own property. These things are made necessary by the incentive. You only have to have a desire. Do I want to participate in Bitcoin mining? If the answer is yes, then you need to go through the checklist. What do I need? What do I have? What do I need? And those are the only limitations. Those are the only barriers to entry into this. And the more participants we have, the better your voice is heard on these networks. If you don't support something, you can actually say, I don't really support that. I'm going to go to another network. And they're going to be able to see that. They're going to be able to see the drop in hash power on their network, and they're going to be like, well, wait, where are you going? The realm of the perspective that I'm laying out here, it's not really held by a lot of people in the media. The people that are mining, this is the way that they're thinking about this shit. And I'm sure they've got other concerns that I'm not even addressing here. Only because I'm not a high-scale miner either. But anyway, the point being is that that's how this space operates. It's not something where you establish a set of resources and then you dedicate them to it. No, you establish the desire. You establish the goal first. You find out what limitations you have. You find out what inefficiencies you have, where your improvements can be made, and then you work from that. That's what dictates what you do. Not what somebody else tells you to do, because they don't live where you do. You might be living in an area that's really, really super cheap for electricity, if not absolutely free by your own making, presumably. And nothing that anybody else tells you about what to mine, how to mine, whatever, no, it's not going to make any sense. It's not going to pertain to you because your cost profile for mining is completely different than everybody else's. Maybe you're like right next door to a place that makes ASICs. And you can buy their second rounders, and they're 50%ers. You know, it gets 50% performance. You can buy those dime on a dollar, you know, versus the high performing units. But you know, if you put enough of those to mining an altcoin, it could potentially be profitable for you if you could afford the electricity again. You know, so I'm just going to stop right there on this point. You know, I dove off the deep end on it. But really, in this space, in crypto, the only limitation is your desire. What you want to do. That's it. Everything else is whether or not it's legal. You know, I mean, you know, if it's like, you know, slavery or something like that, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of support. But, you know, if it's producing some good, you might be able to find people that want to support you. Want to knock down a buck or two, or willing to risk it. You know, and again, these things are investments. This is not a quick get-rich-quick scheme. There are plenty of those out there. There are plenty of them that pose as legitimate projects. But by default, crypto projects are not this. You know, it's not a space designed solely to rip people off. Anyway, I got a few things that I want to cover here, and I was going to reply to somebody on this one point, but there we go. I wanted to resolve something else. Here we go. I saw this one and I had to click on it because who the SEC chooses to go after is always really humorous and offensive to me. And so this one's on Coindesk.com. U.S. government sues decentralized content platform Library over $11 million in token sales. And this is by Sebastian Sinclair. It was authored on March 29th, 2021 at 6:34 p.m. PDT. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is pursuing yet another case of a blockchain company allegedly selling unregistered securities. According to court documents filed Monday, peer-to-peer content distribution network LBRY Library is accused of selling, quote, millions of dollars worth of unregistered securities to investors, beginning in 2016. The securities regulator is seeking a permanent injunction against Library from selling further tokens, in addition to a disgorgement of, quote, ill-gotten gains plus prejudgment interest. The SEC says the securities were sold in the form of library credits, LBC, which were communicated to investors as being used to fund Library's business and build its product, according to the document. LBRY is an open source protocol allowing participants to post content without fear of retribution. The SEC says LBC tokens were sold as investment contracts in exchange for US dollars and other non-monetary contributions. The network has solicited help from the cryptocurrency community, claiming the industry is at risk while simultaneously saying its credits are not securities. Coindesk attempted to contact LBRY for additional comment, but did not receive a reply at press time. Of particular note in the SEC document and brought to the attention in a tweet by crypto lawyer Grant Golovson are allegations LBRY enlisted a vendor to use 40 million LBC from its institutional fund to act as a market maker. The MM operated as a middleman to buy and sell LBC on a, quote, regular and continuous basis at prevailing market prices. The SEC alleges this activity provided an air of credibility that the platform was capable of generating a profit. LBRY and Autonomy announced a market-making partnership as recently as June 2020. Polychain Capital led a $7 million funding round in Autonomy in July 2019. Stemming from the initial coin offering craze in 2017, the SEC has been clamping down on cryptocurrency and blockchain businesses it claims are operating outside of U.S. securities law by selling unregistered products to vulnerable investors. You know what? I don't think that's illegal. They define it, they come along, and they define it as being their shit or something that they regulate, even though they probably don't. And like I said, I don't know, by the phrasing of this paragraph, I can't determine that LBRY actually did anything illegal. Stemming from, and we'll read it again just to clarify here. Stemming from the initial coin offering craze in 2017, the SEC has been clamping down on cryptocurrency and blockchain businesses it claims are operating outside of U.S. securities law by selling unregistered products to vulnerable investors. See, that's the thing. I don't see anything here that suggests that cryptocurrencies or blockchain businesses, for that matter, are handling quote-unquote securities. This perspective, this sentence here, is operating under the assumption that LBRY was issuing quote-unquote securities according to U.S. securities law. Personally, I do not believe that's the case. They can amend shit to twist their fucking definitions of things and whatnot, but it doesn't change the fact that things that are made after the fact are made supposedly in good faith. And I think that burden of proof that the intention was somehow malicious, even if it is solely to circumnavigate legal definitions provided by the SEC or the Securities and Exchange Act of 1933. And like I said that before, that I think it should be illegal for any regulatory entity to simply tweak its little bill or even have Congress vote on a tweaking of a bill, because a lot of times they just turkey stuff this along with a whole bunch of other shit that they want. But I don't really believe there is any explicit U.S. law that states it's okay for a regulatory entity to just reevaluate shit and change shit as they see fit. And if it is legal for them to do that, I believe that law should be repealed. Because it means that you are always going to be in a position where first movers, and also legacy providers are always going to be ahead. They're always going to be ahead. They're always going to be able to afford the lawyers to argue their cases for them. They're always going to be able to afford lobbyists to change the law to fit their profit motive and to keep you out. And because that's the case, you could never really aspire to get ahead of it. I mean, it's not to say quit. Fuck that. But it is to say that this challenge, it really should not even be legal. The fact of the matter is it's going to put us further and further behind other jurisdictions that are not observing the same standard of law we are. And I don't really give a damn what their regulations say. They could have harsher regulations than we do. China probably has harsher regulations than the United States does. However, the vast majority of the mining, probably even the vast majority of the trading, is still fucking happening in China. So why put ourselves intentionally behind China just to guarantee the market position of people that will not be able to cope with what China is going to be able to do to us? You know, I mean, we're going to be much better off with as many people as possible involved in this shit here in the United States. And things that lawmakers do and things that fucking lobbyists do to try and curtail that number, again, are intentionally impairing the growth, the future growth of the economy of the United States. And I find that wholly offensive. I do not need you to protect me. I am a lowly fisherman, and yet I've been able to afford to exist in crypto because of crypto. You know, you want to talk about vulnerable investor. I'm not a sophisticated investor. I'm probably the worst cryptocurrency trader on this planet. And yet I've still managed to keep myself alive on this shit. So SEC, fuck off. There are more than enough legitimate players out there in the legacy markets, people who you are obligated under law to go after, who are doing shit in crypto that by every account is fucking illegal. It is the shit that you should be dragging people to court over, but you're not paying attention to them. Fucking Goldman Sachs. They're the de facto owners. I mean, I keep using that word de facto. I don't want to use that word. They own USDC. The USDC that are circulating out there, those are Goldman Sachs dollars, but they're acting as proxies of US dollars. So commerce that's being conducted in them is taking away from fees, taxes, so on and so forth that would be incurred if they were being conducted in US dollars. But they're not. They're being conducted in a proxy for US dollars. And you're allowing it. You don't give a fuck about it. You know, so what? It's Goldman Sachs. You know, they do trillions of dollars business. You don't care about it yet. But you're going to be made to care about it. You know, I quit predicting the GR Bufu a long time ago. Because it kind of occurred to me that it seemed that Ripple wasn't getting the kind of market penetration that would be necessary for them to be the catalyst for the destruction of all digital markets, both legacy and in crypto. Anything that they're integrated with, basically, they'll debase. Fortunately for us, for the most part, altcoins have been kind of spared that on the open altcoin market. The biggest place they experience it is drag against stable coins. And again, I feel like if the SEC were to go after anybody for making unregistered securities, it would be stablecoin issuers. People like Goldman Sachs, people like JP Morgan, because there are people like Gemini, which is actually got Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and a few other legacy players acting as regulatory proxies for them. I'm not going to go into that there, but they run a stable coin that is backed by the US dollar, supposedly on a one-to-one basis, with a volume of US dollars somewhere. And I've done the investigation that satisfies my expectations, and according to everything I have read about every single stable coin on the market, and I don't give a fuck which one it is, there's not been a single one that has ever gone through a third-party audit. They have all either had attestations internal audits, audits conducted by some organization that they're very familiar with. The disclosures of those audits are very limited. They fall well short of the expectation that you would have of an audit. You don't expect an auditor to just say, yep, they got the money. We checked at 8 a.m. on fucking March 29th, Eastern Standard Time. We checked on their cash balance of the accounts they provided to us, and they had the money at that time. And we watched them for 2 months, and we read their books for 2 months back, and they're legit. They've got the money. If that was all an auditor said, if that was the totality of their report, you'd be a little disappointed, wouldn't you? I mean, you would expect them to say, yeah, they, on this date they had, 349 million, so on and so forth. We observed them for 2 months. This is the total chart of the balance history for that 2-month period, according to our records. Provide some fucking transparent disclosure, what you would expect. They hold the account at this bank in Hong Kong or Singapore or wherever. This is the total amount of money that they hold there, or that they had on this date there. You would want an extensive report of things like banks. Where do they have money? How much of their stake is in that particular bank? What's the actual collateral? Is it US dollars? Is it some sort of other thing that's worth that? Is it dollar denominated obligations like Tether has tried to pass off as US dollars? Point being, what the fuck is it? Do they have the money? If I want to cash it out for US dollars, can I do it right now? Is the market going to give me $1 per one of these fucking tokens? Because that's what's important to me. Everything else is bullshit. But again, the SEC, the way that they choose who to go after and what they go after them for, it's like they've got a dartboard. And it's like, who are we going to go after? I don't know. Let's put this blindfold on and thread this dartboard and see what happens. It's very arbitrary. But it's arbitrary unless I've got a perspective on it that they're going after low-hanging fruit, and basically they're working up the ladder. They intend to eventually address Bitcoin, I am sure, and probably specifically on MSB counts, that you're operating as a money services provider by being a miner or some shit like that. But there'll be a catalyst. And I wanted to go into library, and we might do that on another episode. But there's something else that happened that I feel is far more important. And don't get me wrong, it's the library thing. I'm sure it's very important. However, I think this one is more important if I can find it again. I got it open on a tab somewhere, and that's not it. It's some fucking report that we're not going to pay for. Oh, where is it? No, that's GitHub. No, it's some other fraud shit. Damn it. No, it's not Digital Yuan. Is it? No. Control. Bing. Damn it, Jim. Well, I had it here. No, Blockchain Park 19. No. I don't even want to read that thing. There's this one, and I think this may include it. But Visa actually did. Here we go. This is the one I wanted to cover. And it was authored on March 29th, 2021. It's by Scott Cipollina. Or Cipollina, my apologies. But yes, penis. And this is authored, it's on decrypt.co. Visa completes first cryptocurrency transaction on Ethereum. Notice it's not on Bitcoin. Visa has announced today that it will allow the use of the USD coin cryptocurrency to settle transactions on its payments network per Reuters. In a trial conducted earlier this month, Crypto.com sent a USDC transaction to Visa's Ethereum address at Crypto Custody Service Anchorage. Per today's announcement, Visa's use of the Ethereum blockchain removes the need to convert digital coins into traditional money before the transaction can take place, removing pre-existing complexities for businesses. The USD coin is a stable coin, a crypto asset that is pegged to the US dollar. The move comes at a time when major institutions like BNY Mellon, MicroStrategy, and PayPal have all embraced the crypto industry. Earlier this month, Tesla invested a whopping $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, signaling just how appealing the crypto industry is, proving to be to large investors. Quote, "We see increasing demand from consumers across the world to be able to access, hold, and use digital currencies. And we're seeing demand from our clients to be able to build products that provide access for consumers," says Kui Sheffield, head of crypto at Visa. Part of that increasing demand is taking place in Latin America, where consumers want access to cryptocurrencies not just as a hedge against inflating national currencies, but as a means for spending. According to a Visa survey conducted last month, 25% of all credit card users in Latin America would like to experiment with cryptocurrencies if payment processors gave them the opportunity. But Visa's pivot into the crypto industry doesn't stop there. According to CEO Al Kelly, Visa is also looking to, quote, enable the purchase of Bitcoin on Visa credentials. Interesting. But the one thing that I think will stop that is the increase in price for on-chain transactions. You know, there's a fact that never goes away with any of these cryptocurrencies, is that nothing is final until it is settled on the native blockchain. That means that at one point or another you're going to have to pay to close one payment channel and open another. And those transactions are going to incur transaction fees. And those transaction fees are only going to get more expensive for you because of things like replace by fee and block size limits. Now see, if these things were removed, pretty much anyone and everyone could afford to transact directly on the Bitcoin blockchain. And that includes Visa. You know, and I've talked about this before, that if we were to remove the block size limit, that would vastly reduce the per transaction fee. The nature of those transactions, what they're for, whatever, that is entirely subjective. And so Visa could be opening and closing payment channels for fucking 15 cents on a piece and not ever worry about, is MasterCard going to RBF my fucking transactions that are establishing my payment channels? Are they going to keep me from being able to close my payment channels? Or worse yet, are they going to involuntarily dust my payment channels? Because I thought, you know, having this wonderful little thing, you know, this monopolizable block space, you know, that was such a wonderful thing. You create a market, yeah, wonderful. I can just build all kinds of tokens and layers and tokens and layers and tokens and layers. And there's never gonna be a real issue with that. You know, I'm always gonna be able to afford my transaction fees because I'll just divert more and more of my traffic directly off of this trusted chain And I'm never really going to need to settle, because I'll just keep my payment channels open and just keep refreshing them, and everything will be wonderful. The block space does not become cheaper unless there is more of it. And the demand for that block space is only going to go up as more and more people build stuff on top of it. This is why I believe in the long term we are going to give up the block size limit, and we're going to give up replaced by fee. And we're going to give up pre-structuring blocks too. We're going to take the transactions in an as-received basis, because that is the most trustable way to do it. It minimizes the possibility of double spends. It minimizes the possibility of there being a real security issue on the network. See, when you reduce the number of participants that are incentivized to mine, you create all kinds of other liabilities, and we haven't explored it yet, to my knowledge anyway. But I believe in the not so distant future, things like hash farms are going to become a liability. If you can take out a significant portion of a network with, say, a drone strike, suddenly it becomes kind of appealing to do so. If the incentive ever becomes high enough, or like Bitcoin is like $10 million a fucking coin, and that block reward is still six per block. Suddenly it might become an incentive. It might become a worthy venture to send a fleet of fucking drones throughout the Chinese landscape and just fucking torch all their mining farms, so that you're producing more of the hash rate on the network, and you're getting those Bitcoin, and you're getting those transaction fees. As I see it, it's like part of the evolution of cryptocurrency, that we're going to go through all of these things. And like I said, I think that kind of liability being created by the necessity of needing a hash farm in order to do it profitably, that whole thing is going to get rebalanced. Suddenly your shed with 6 to 10 miners will be a profitable venture, because you're not going to be able to afford to have much more than that on per site, because somebody might take it out with a fucking drone. If you were ever consolidating enough transactions, enough monetary activity happening on your site, dependent on your site, again, it becomes a liability. And right now I think that's one way to kind of characterize the SEC's actions. They started with Ripple, and more importantly, they went after Ripple specifically because they had a corporate body. This is a liability that 99.999% of all of crypto has sought to avoid, is having a corporate body to go after. That's the idea of decentralization, of ad hoc. If you want to participate, jump on in. If you don't want to participate, see ya, have a nice day. It's why. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And as far as what to put in next, I think this one goes. Irreversible Mechanism, Awakening, here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with Changing, Ending, Troubling Times. And so, where we're going to go from here, I don't know how, but we managed to get it around to where we've got like one music break for this entire episode, or at least it's shaping up that way. We might get in a brief one at the end, but I don't think we're actually going to need to. My program's kind of hung up there, and hopefully it'll straighten itself out here in a short order. I rarely ever play that particular prong song, but it decided to play it, so I kind of like step back and let it do it. You know, I'm like, it's a pretty good prong song and hardly ever gets played. You know, I'm not gonna throw a fit. I guess I'm gonna have to restart this thing, and then we'll get into what we're gonna get into as soon as it decides. There we go. All right, so reconnect. And switch that to that. Bam. We're reconnected. There we go. So anyway, this next thing I got here, it's on twitlonger.com. LBRY response to the SEC. The SEC complaint against LBRY reflects an outdated view of the economy that stifles innovation, accessibility, and creativity. LBRY is a blockchain-enabled network that allows creators to publish digital content and consumers to explore and buy content using LBRY credits. The complaint also fails to acknowledge the concerted steps taken by LBRY to comply with the law and to conduct its business in a forthcoming and transparent way. Under the overreaching standards set by the SEC complaint, most blockchain tokens would be deemed securities, leaving uncertainty and confusion in the industry. Actually, they're going after low-hanging fruit first and then working their way up the ladder. I'm sure that at some point or another they do intend to address Bitcoin and any of the forks. Anyway, continuing on. Let's see here. Unlike some others, LBRY built its network without conducting an initial coin offering. Moreover, LBRY tokens have been used on the network since they were first made available several years ago. LBRY has been transparent about the details of its sales of the LBRY token and its use of the proceeds from those sales. In addition, LBRY has sought to comply with Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering principles, even though the LBRY token is not a security. Nonetheless, the SEC has adopted the hardline position that more is needed, that the token, and effectively all tokens, are securities, thereby putting in jeopardy any business in this industry. Despite the failure of regulators to offer clear rules of the road for this industry, LBRY has undertaken concerted efforts to bring transparency in their operations. LBRY has worked with counsel so that our policies maximize safety for the members of our community, including developing the LBRY network and LBRY browser, and continually engaging with the LBRY community to provide education and support regarding the use of the LBRY network. We have cooperated with the SEC's investigation that has lasted nearly 3 years, producing voluminous documents and presenting its executives for in-person testimony. At no time has the SEC suggested that LBRY or any person associated with LBRY intentionally violated any law after expending mammoth resources to investigate a small New Hampshire startup company. The SEC's complaint alleges that its token is a security and therefore the business effectively should be shut down. We urge our government to support and not undermine such innovative and thriving businesses and turn its resources to more constructive efforts. LBRY was created as a network for accessing and publishing information that is global, robust, and free from the centralization of data that allows platforms to control who has the ability to create and access content. As a result, 20 million users across the globe are able to use blockchain technology to publish and access information in a fully decentralized way. Rather than support the growth of such innovative and useful technologies, the SEC has taken efforts to suppress the blockchain industry and entrepreneurial operations like LBRY through aggressive lawsuits based on an uneven application of an outdated regulatory scheme for the last century. Not necessarily a century, since 1933 at least. Instead of launching inequitable complaints, we urge the SEC to act in the interest of consumers and instead provide clarity and certainty for businesses operating in this space. We would welcome being part of that discussion and solution. Yeah, whatever. I think that the SEC is, again, they're just going after organizations and projects that compete with incumbents. They're acting in the interest of a few entities operating within the finance space that are not that are not, fucking Stellar or Bitcoin or anybody else like that. Anyway, let's see here. No, not that one. I don't want to cover that one. There was one more here. Not that one. Oh. Here's something interesting. And this is on news.bitcoin.com. And it's by Jamie Redmond. So yes, penis. And it was authored 4 days ago. Chinese citizens can now apply for the digital yuan wallet through 6 state-owned banks. Following the interview with Ma Chengcheng, the head of the People's Bank of China-run Digital Currency Research Institute, a recent report indicates that residents from Beijing and Shanghai can now apply for a digital yuan wallet. According to the report, 6 different Chinese banks will participate in the process. A recent report by the Chinese Securities Times explains that residents from China are now able to apply for the digital yuan wallet. The wallet is comparable with the People's Bank of China's digital currency project. I guess those are going to be 2 different things? The report indicates that residents who live in Shanghai and Beijing can now apply through the wallet through 6 state-owned financial institutions. The regional report also says that the banks involved in the digital wallet application procedure, include the Agricultural Bank of China, Bank of Communications, Bank of China, Bank of Communication. We already got Bank of Communications, dude. China Construction Bank and Postal Savings Bank of China. The central bank digital currency, also known as DCEP, I guess deception, yeah, that whatever, has already started to see acceptance from various merchants in China. Individuals can spend the digital yuan at vending machines in Shanghai's subway and the, I don't know how to pronounce that, shopping center as well. Huijin department stores are also accepting the People's Bank of China's CBDC. Internet platforms have also been experimenting with the digital yuan with platforms such as Meituan. After various tests throughout the past year, China's central bank approved the 6 banks to start whitelisting clients at certain branches. The Security Times report also details that that interested users can simply scan a QR code to access the application link to apply for the CBDC wallet. The guidelines also say that customers can bundle their bank card funds into the wallet too. The digital yuan wallet has a maximum payment limit of 1,000 yuan per day, and customers can upgrade for higher payment tiers. That's fucking hilarious. Oh my gosh. Let me see if there's any comments on this one. Nope. Not yet. Yeah, that's hilarious. You know, that you have to upgrade for higher payment tiers. So if you want to make more than $1,000 a day, or 1,000 yuan per day, you have to upgrade for higher payment tiers. Isn't that fucking silly? Wow. So, you know, it's going to be interesting is, I think that we're probably going to see instances where people have mocked an IP address in China, in Shanghai, I guess, and created a digital yuan wallet, despite the fact they're not actually in China. And they're going to be using that wallet to examine the network traffic that they can see. It's going to be interesting. Really, really interesting. Yeah, but I don't think that any CBDC is actually going to work. Mostly because I expect that most people will stay out of them. Or that where they do use them is simply to use them as a means of escape into things like cryptocurrencies. You know, the whole point of this stuff is not to give governments some new tools to play with our money on. No. This is to escape their involvement in our currency. Anyway, so yeah, that's about as much on that one. There was another one I wanted to cover that tapped back to the was it library? Let's see. That's not it. It might have been this one. The art of central banking on blockchains, non-pegged stablecoins. Wow. That's a report on Masari, and I'm not going to bother with it. Not going to bother with it. I'm trying to find this specific one. No, that's not it. Reduced demand for bitcoins. That is kind of humorous. Here. I'm going to throw this one out. It wasn't exactly the one that I was hoping to get to, but I'm going to throw it out anyway because I think it's hilarious. This is on Coindesk.com. CBDCs will reduce demand for Bitcoin, says South Korean central bank chief. Will I be able to buy drugs with it, dude? No. And this is by Sandali Handagama. No penis. Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol said when central bank digital currencies are introduced, the demand for existing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin will fade. Lee's comments on the sustainability of cryptocurrency came at an event on Wednesday. Park Jeon-mo reported for Coindesk Korea, quote, when the central bank issued digital currency is introduced, the demand for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a means of payment will decrease. He also said Bitcoin and other crypto assets have high price volatility, so there are limitations to how well they can function as a means of payment or as a store of value. Lee's comments come as the Bank of Korea prepares to pilot its own CBDC later this year. A number of countries around the world, including China, Russia, Turkey, and Jamaica, have all announced potential CBDC pilots in 2021. In South Korea's pilot, the banks plan to test the CBDC for fund transfers, payments, issuance, distribution, and redemption, according to CoinDesk Korea. Bank of Korea also published research on a national digital currency in February, which concluded that CBDCs are like fiat currency and will meet the requirements for legal tender as opposed to privately issued cryptocurrencies. At Wednesday's event, Lee added, quote, "Prior to the circulation of a CBDC, there is a need for an inspection of technological requirements and an in-depth examination of the impact of a CBDC on the financial system." Yeah, whatever. Like you give a fuck about bankers. Last week, U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell made a similar comment, referring to a report from the Bank for Institutional or International Settlements, BIS. Speaking at a Basel conference on virtual payments, Powell said that a CBDC will need to, quote, "coexist with cash and other types of money in an innovative and flexible payment system." Lee has had to answer other questions about virtual currencies because of the Bitcoin price run and South Korea's upcoming CBDC pilot. Last month, speaking to the National Assembly, Lee said cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have, quote, "no intrinsic value." That's bullshit. At a later event, Lee also said that when it comes to a CBDC, it's better to follow the path of the U.S. and do it right rather than do it fast. Yeah, and doing it right is not doing it. So you can just go ahead and not do it and be ahead of the curve. I mean, really, it's like every 50 years this comes up that we're so far beyond the ability of a government to point at the economic system and say, this is fair, this isn't rigged against you, and for them to hyperinflate the underlying currency and the public to react to it. And it's like it happens every 50 years or so. And it's like first we had gold, right? Gold-backed currency. And then the government said, well, we can't do that. We got so much outstanding debt that there's no way in hell that we're ever going to pay it off with the gold volume that we have here. Or it's going to drive gold so fucking high it's going to make miners rich. And we don't want to do that. And so they pushed paper money on us. And they took away gold. They literally physically confiscated gold in order to make us use paper currency. And now, I'm certain, at one point or another, there's going to be an expectation that they're going to be able to make you use their CBDC. And see, personally, I don't believe that that's actually going to work out. Because, again, this is another point where they're basically killing the incentive to do anything, to innovate anything. Because it's like you can't really make it without a license, and if you get a license, that's going to increase the price profile of it. So I kind of dove off on a weird angle there, but at one point or another, it will lose all appeal to do any kind of fucking innovation. And that's going to cause the economy to contract to just barely above subsistence. And while that may sound wonderful to somebody right now, I believe that between here and there, they're going to incur enough resistance by professionals that kind of keep things running as they are right now to that whole proposal, the whole idea. And be like, no, that's going to cost us way too much money. We're not going to be able to stay in business if we do that, so we're not going to do it. And, Jerome Powell giving us the out of saying, hey, it's going to have to exist side by side with U.S. dollars. He's trying to give somebody hope out there. He's trying to enlist somebody who isn't all that certain, but is a key player. And, if they don't participate, the thing probably not going to work. Well, I could tell that participant right now, it's not in your financial interest to do so. These guys already got all the scams worked out and all the ways that they intend to fuck you for the next century or so. So, rather than go through all that, wait a year. In a year, whatever they've got on the table, whatever they're offering to you, is going to look like shit. And I can tell you this right now. Regardless of whatever deal you engage in and that you commit yourself to with them, the rest of the planet probably isn't going to go along with it. Especially if it's only beneficial for you and them. You and the small cabal of people telling you that that's a good idea. I mean, it's becoming more and more obvious to me, at least, that it's becoming real to these people that a bunch of kids running hardware in their own homes are competing on an even playing field with Goldman Sachs in digital finance. This whole thing with Ethereum using with Visa using the Ethereum network, to me, that is a white flag. That is Visa saying, we are no more important and no more significant than your next door neighbor's kid who could be facilitating transactions for you via his Ethereum node. We're no more important. And actually, we're less important than him because he is running miners and we are just using the network. We are end-using serfs, just like you. That's what it is to me. Some people look at it and they're like, this is going to be wonderful because Visa's going to put more traffic on the Ethereum network, and that's going to bring some legitimacy. Again, it's basically, in my eyes, it's them saying they're no more important, they're no more significant than Vitalik Buterin or anybody that's involved in developing or anybody who's involved in mining. No, those people are actually more important than Visa because now Visa is just another fucking end user like you. Yeah. It was coming to begin with, and it's interesting to me now that you start hearing all these narratives about how proof of work mining sucks and it's inefficient. It's fucking bullshit. I've said this a million times on the show. When you're on Twitter, follow fucking whale alerts. Type it in the search thing, whale alerts. Follow it. You'll see transactions all day long going from Coinbase, going from Gemini, going from other exchanges, going from unknown wallet to unknown wallet. And if you really look, a lot of those transactions are going to quote-unquote unknown wallet. Meaning even with the available metadata, they don't know who the fucking recipient of that money was. And today I was seeing transactions in the tens of millions of dollars or their equivalent to the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm telling you, man, a lot of fucking money. If those transactions were happening via the SWIFT system or the wire system, they would cost thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in fees and taxes and all kinds of fucking regulatory bullshit. And that cost is not being experienced by the participants of that commerce or involved in that commerce. And that is the real reason you're hearing anything about regulation, is that these entities are watching their lunch get fucking ate. They're probably following whale alerts too, and they can see their lunch getting ate in fucking real time. Anyway, it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so as far as our last dance is concerned, let me see what I got on the grill here. You know, we haven't played any Ministry today. We played some Prong, but we did not play any Ministry. Let me get down there. Let me see if I can find a good one here. Ministry, because, you know, it's also a time thing. We're kind of narrow on time. Maybe? No, it's a little too short. No, it's too long. No, that's not really what we wanted. Damn it, Jim. Well, it's not looking like I'm going to actually have enough time for that. Well, no. Alright, we're going to have to go System of a Down. Bounce. Get down there. And there it is. Here we go. System of a Down. Bounce. Last Dance. Here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.